And we're live with our 284th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on social media, joined by my co-host, Seth Law at Seth Law on social media. Seth, say hi.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. We are excited to be back from the not sunny state of California, or I guess we should say Northern Bay. It was cold. Ken and I were at RSA and BSidesSF San Francisco last week. We do have a recording of the session from BSidesSF San Francisco, the State of Absolute AppSec, that will be posted. We're waiting for the conference itself to actually push that live, but it will be in the newsletter here this week, I believe. We've got a bunch of write-ups around what happened there and how that went with Ariel and Lakshmi, and we had a lot of good discussion. So anyway, before we get into our recap of BSides and RSA, I did want to mention a couple of things. First of all is the opportunity for training. There is training that's going to be running next week. If you go to training.absoluteappsec.com, we will be running practical secure code review. If you are looking for an opportunity, please join up. We still have a couple of seats available there. Would love to have you. And in addition to that, we will be doing harnessing LLMs for application security at DEF CON this year. Really excited about that. All the new tips and tricks, things that we've been learning, implementing LLMs and utilizing that in our practices will be on display there, and we will teach you how to do that. So check both of those out. You can find all the information at training.absoluteappsec.com. So would love to see you. Besides that, I did want to give a shout out today to Redpoint Security for being our sponsor. Redpoint specializes in code security by coders, which is bolstered by years of experience testing applications and conducting code reviews against all types of applications. Redpoint also offers secure code training to help ground your teams in better security practices across the development lifecycle. So check out redpointsecurity.com for more information and put your company on a path to better security. Thanks to Redpoint. All right. With that, it was a whirlwind last week, like I was saying, as we were in San Francisco. But I wanted to start out, Ken, asking you personally what your highlights of that week were.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hanging out with you, Seth. That was my highlight.
Always, yeah.
No.
Always a highlight.
I mean, it is actually genuinely whenever we're in the same town.
Yeah, it's fun times.
No, it always is, right? We get to hang out and sort of almost what is it? There's a word I'm looking for, but I can't. Kind of just go over the things that have happened in the last couple months.
Decompress. Yeah.
It's something. Debrief over the last couple months. Man, that's what sucks about getting to my 40s is like just sometimes it's hard to remember things. Words. Anyways, yeah, so I ran 3 workshops. This is probably why my brain's a little fried too. Ran 3 workshops over the course of Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at the AppSec Village at RSA. And I wanted to say that the people at the AppSec Village, they ran that really, really well. It was really, really smooth. It was also really nice because it was kind of like in terms of the attendance, it's lesser amount of people, I'd say, than from like DEF CON. And I was talking to the actual folks that run it, and they were saying as much, which is good because this is like our first, live workshop and at the AppSec Village. And so it's nice to have, I guess, a test bed. But yeah, the people that came by, it was really awesome. Basically, it was like roughly an 8 to 10 minute exercise on repeat for 2 straight hours. So you get different groups that can come in for like 10, 15 minutes, do their thing, and then go on to the next village workshop. And so you basically do the same 10 minutes for the 3 days that you're scheduled for your 2-hour workshop. So that was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I think the other massive highlight is like Monday when we got finished with the workshop, we headed over to Hinge Health for that Aegis of AI event. I would say it was, I mean, we basically had keynote speakers, like 3 keynote speakers, right? Like as just regular, like a meetup sized group in there. You know, you and I ran that panel asking them questions after they all gave talks. So, you know, each one of them, just for the listeners, viewers, it was like 20 to 25 minutes of a talk. And so this was Ken Huang, who's like, you know, the LLM person right now, right? He's giving the RSA keynote on AI and security and whatnot. Things to think about security wise. Then there was there was Jason Haddix after him, who talked about red teaming AI systems, and then Daniel Miessler, who you and I are under NDA for the broader details, so we can't share those. But I can say that Daniel had some really interesting thoughts about humanity and AI and where it's all going, and I just thought that was really, really neat. And then afterwards, you and I had the privilege of taking questions from the audience and relaying them to the speakers and sort of managing that. But we had a very tight 2-hour window, so I felt like a little bit of a drill sergeant trying to manage that. That whole thing. And then Sunday, the day before, you and I did like you had mentioned, Lakshmi and Ariel had hopped on the panel. I say hopped on like it's so casual. It was like, no, there's actually a lot of thought and work that went into that. But anyways, so we hopped on the panel, and they you know, shared their insights as the audience asked. You know, huge theater full of people, bright lights. So definitely like not the easiest, most casual place to start answering questions, but I think they handled it really, really well. The audience had great questions. I felt like, you know, you did a great job with everything, managing the questions and the panelists and whatnot. So that was just, those were like my I guess my highlights. What were your highlights? Like, besides those things?
Yeah,
you were in town mostly for B-Sides.
Yeah. I mean, I was mostly there for B-Sides. You know, we had some of like what we would reference as hallway con stuff that went on. That is always really good. I mean, honestly, one of the highlights from my experience was the what was it, Saturday night, when we went out for drinks with Paul and arguing about vibe coding for hours, right?
Yeah, that was fun.
It was super fun. Paul. It was just the get together that we had broadcast out in Slack about, hey, everybody's going to be here. Let's go, like, you know, get together, you know, say hi. But started this big old long thread over the weekend about vibe coding and where that's going to go. And we can have more conversations about it, you know, at a later date. But that was fun. Also, actually, that last minute just dinner that we had on, what was that, Tuesday night with
John,
Leah and Tanya and like what's his bucket from security, Dustin Leffler from Security Journey, and that or however you say his last name, right?
No, I don't know how to say it. I just
Dustin from Security Journey.
Dustin,
yeah. You know, met some different people in the application security space. Some of them were from, you know, across, you know, all around the world that were there for RSA and for B-Sides, but reconnecting with those people. Some of the hallway con, talking to, you know, Clint Gibbler, running into him. He came to the Ages of Tomorrow event, but he also like had his keynote, had a good discussion with him. Those are the sorts of things that are really like, you know, kind of refill my bucket at times. I love doing the panels. I love doing the talks, but a lot of times just the adrenaline and all that goes into that can be incredibly draining, right? Especially like I think about you running a workshop where you have like different people and you're doing the same thing every 10 to 15 minutes. I don't know if that's like, it can be good, but it can also be a little bit exhausting to, you know, reiterate the same things, tell the same joke, to, you know, show the same exact
how dare you
how dare you
many times insinuate this is a scripted.
This is what I do, right? Like I script that out, right? Like my like 2-minute like explanation on things, right? so So those can be exhausting, and while they're fun, they don't necessarily refill my bucket as much as, or get me as excited as some of those other conversations that I have with people. And I know, like, people get stressed out about especially the panels, right? Like, oh, I don't know what's going to come out, right? I try to tell people, right? Like, I feel like us having this conversation every week and being out there publicly and just taking on different topics and learning to talk about them makes it really easy to come up with questions, number one, but also to distill things down, to break it down and at least have something to say about a topic, which I know can be intimidating, right? Like if you're in a corporate environment where you have a meeting request that comes in for next week, you have a week to prepare your thoughts on a specific topic, a specific technology, whatever it is. It's a lot more disconcerting to actually do that in a panel format when you get popped certain questions, right? But I thought they did a great job, right? Yeah.
They did a great, oh yeah, I'm sorry. They did a great, no, they did a great job. Like that is, you're right. Like, and especially when I say the bright lights, like literally you and I we realized we couldn't even see the people in the first row. Like if you cover the lights, you could actually see it. Like it was a packed house. It was a huge theater. And it was just like, it's like, that is not conducive to like relaxed discussion, right? But that's what you agree to when you do the panel. And they did, I mean, I know they're like, used to being in the spotlight a bit, so that helps, but it's just still very challenging. You don't know what's going to be thrown at you. Like, and I mean, ahead of time, we did what, like 45 minutes of sort of, here's sort of the things that, just for contracts with their own companies, like things they can't talk about, for one reason or another, like just because it's, we all are beholden to somebody. Well, except for maybe you work for yourself, but I'm still beholden to people, even as a co-founder and whatnot. So anyways, it's just so much prep went in like into that. So great job. And I was going to say too, like, cause you brought up a good point. Like I was thinking people used to put me on panels when I would go to the speak at conferences. This is like earlier, we'll say maybe like circa 2013, 2014 era. And I would clam up. I would freeze up. And like, I didn't want the mic. I didn't want to say my opinion. I was like, I don't know. Like I'm always pretty unsure of myself, but I try to get past it now and whatever. And just like, so now it's easier because of, now, if you throw me on a panel, it's like you were saying, like, I'm happy to give my opinion, right or wrong, and have a discussion on it. Is it still nerve-wracking? Of course. Like, yeah, this podcast is every week not the easiest thing to do. Once we get going, I feel like it's a little bit easier, but man, it's tough to like, yeah, like, sometimes questions get asked where I'm like, I know you're the same way, Seth. It's hard if you don't feel like the expert to even say anything.
Yeah.
You end up just like asking more questions with like you specifically. I'm not saying you generally, it actually means you specifically. You end up, I've noticed if you don't feel like you're the expert, you'll end up kind of clarifying things or asking more questions or sort of hypothesizing, but not giving, you're very good about like saying, maybe this, maybe that, it's a very pragmatic sort of response that you'll tend to give. And I think that's the right way to handle it. Nevertheless, it's still nerve-wracking. When's the last time you were a panelist yourself, not doing a panel or like, managing a panel?
I think the last time that we actually did that, well, no, you were on the panel in Australia. That's right. That wasn't me.
Oh yeah,
it's been years. That would have been pre-pandemic, right? Like I'm pretty sure
you've ran a bunch of them.
Yeah, I've run a whole
and technically
bunch.
You answer questions on them too. It's not like you're.
I just am leading the discussion more. Yeah. Which is fine. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem taking control of the discussion because then I get the questions answered that I want to see answered. Right? Like,
yeah,
it almost feels like cheating to me, right? Like I don't have to prepare. I can just ask other people and make them give an opinion, and then I can riff off of that. But
yeah. Here, you get criticized.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I see. So vibe coding is only dumb people. No, never mind. I won't get into that. Yeah. So I don't
It's
know.
funny you say.
What were
What's
you
that?
saying? No, go ahead.
No, and I was also thinking, like, it's funny you were saying about the workshop too, how you were saying that those are exhausting and on repeat and whatnot. But like, it wasn't just workshops, right? It was like I was in sales, so I was in sales conversations, I was in other types of important conversations, because like this is the realization that I had about RSA. We all know that it's like more business centric, but it's really just like the financial aspect of the security industry. And
Yep.
that's not to diminish, because like I didn't attend a single RSA talk, right? I did the expo floor, I did everything adjacent to RSA. I didn't go to a single talk. So that's not a comment on the talk. I just mean generally speaking, when you look around, it's like, who is it? It's VCs, right? It's founders, it's um, CISOs, it's buyers, and then yes, of course there's practitioners that attend too, but on the whole, I think we can all largely agree this is mostly like a money around the business industry aspect kind of conference. Not a bad thing actually for me, who's a co-founder slash founder, or co-founder slash business owner who, that's good for me. I need to talk to buyers, and I did a lot of that, but like that was the reason I'm bringing all this up is like, it wasn't just workshops. It wasn't just panels. It wasn't just this. There's a lot of other stuff. So for me, and I don't know if I told you this, Wednesday night, because like I was there, I flew in late Friday. I took a red eye flight Friday to get there. So I was there, doing all that stuff I just talked about Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then by Wednesday evening, like early evening, I shut down. I couldn't take it anymore. I like hit my total like introvert battery limit, whatever you want to call it. Like so I stayed in my hotel room for like at least over 12 hours, maybe like 14 hours, where I just didn't leave the room. I just couldn't anymore. I tried to will myself to go like get some food at it, because my hotel's food was not good. It was way too fancy for me. I'm not like that. You ate breakfast there, so you know how like fancy all that. That's not me. I don't know how to eat that kind of. Just give me like a burger or whatever, right? So, anyways, I was like, I got to leave the room to get some food. I couldn't even do that, so I did room service. It needed like a moment to just not hear the sounds of the city. Like that was a lot of stimulus, and then like the talking and all the interactions and all that. It was just a lot, man. By the time that Wednesday rolled around, and I was flying out Thursday, just done, just absolutely done. And you were there. I mean, you were there like not as long as I was, but you're there almost as long as I was. Like I think I was there a day or two more than you.
I actually I looped it in with another visit to, some friends and clients up in Sacramento. So I was there for a couple of days and then came down for B-Sides.
It's really the same amount of time.
Yeah. One of the comparisons that I find very interesting between B-Sides and RSA, like, riffing off your RSA is definitely the money in cybersecurity, right? B-Sides San Francisco and B-Sides events in general, but specifically B-Sides San Francisco feels so inclusive. And I do want to give a shout out to Clint and his talk on just like the personal welfare aspect of security and like being open and honest and exposed to people was really, really good. So when that comes out, if you didn't see his talk, his keynote at B-Sides, you should go watch it. But B-Sides feels very technical, very inclusive. Everybody's there to try and like build their skills technically, make some connections, build their careers, other things like that. And it is such a whiplash effect to go from that to the RSA floor, right? And just the millions of dollars that are spent on marketing and trying to get money out of your pocket. And not even my pocket, right? Like I run a consultancy. Most of the people on that floor have they're not interested in talking to me. I do not have a huge budget. I am not buying security products by the millions, right? Like it's just not I am not the target for sure, but still walking that floor and seeing how much effort, time, and money is spent in things that aren't necessarily like the same technical aspects that we're dealing with at B-Sides is so hard in my mind to actually combine, whatever that is, right? Like to rectify or to balance out between this is what the security industry is, but this is what the security industry is. And both sides are needed. Yeah, both sides are needed, yet it can be exhausting. I guess that's all I get to there, especially when you see, it can be discouraging at times as well, because it's not always the best product that wins when you walk the RSA floor. It's not always the most technical or the most adept that actually are super successful.
Actually, I'm glad you bring that up because there's some takeaways from the expo floor. One of them is like, people are really, put it this way. There were times where I was like, well, what do you do? Like, yeah, I get it. You use AI. Great. A lot of us use AI. Like, what's the value proposition of what you do? Let's start there. Right. Because I would say I maybe at least 60-70% of the booths just pretty much said like AI powered blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, great. You put some AI in there. Like, that's not what I would start with. And I do, right. With our business, we start with like our value proposition, better results because it's contextualized security analysis. We've been saying that since the outset for 2+ years, probably 2.5 years almost now. And whether we use AI or something else, like that's the actual value, right? Is that contextualized set of what's going on, why do you care, and what should we be concerned about, and what vulnerabilities shake out of something like that, or that you should be concerned about, and are they present? That's valuable. Saying something like, well, I do AI powered scans. It's like, well, great. That's fantastic. So that's the first thing, is like, stop saying AI stuff and start giving value. Secondly, it felt more muted in a sense. Like, I know that the floor also, like, I don't know if it was always like this and I just missed it, and I'm sure it was, but I don't know that I ever recognized that there was a connection point between the south and north Moscone floors. I always just kind of like went through that center thing, and like I didn't realize there was a side that can, anyways, or sides that connect. Anyways, I walked the whole thing Thursday. That was the whole day, like or a couple hours, we'll say. And it felt really muted in comparison. I don't know why, right? Like, I can't really tell you why that is. Like, it didn't feel, and maybe it's because I went the last day, but it usually like the swag is big and the giveaways are big and all that, and like there was none of that there. I mean, there wasn't a lot of that, I should say. There were a few people giving out. I mean, like, for one, you had to like do a photo raffle just to get a hoodie. I think there was one company that gave away, because hold on, it's like
he's finding his swag.
Yeah, whoever this company is, that has this thing, that was nice. Thank you for that.
That's cool.
I just don't know who the company is. That's not good. But anyways, my point is like, it's usually big this and big that. The biggest things I saw there is they had like a puppy petting thing, which do
you mean the goats?
No, there were goats too. So there were goats and there were puppies.
No, puppies. Oh, I missed the puppies. Yeah.
It's actually really funny because I had gone on LinkedIn, on my way home, and it was like, literally, I'm not even kidding. Like, it was like this post just like demolishing the organizers for doing that, like how unfair, blah, 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 blah. But then like maybe one or two, like whatever posts after that. And then the fourth one down was like, oh, I love the goats and I loved the puppies. This is amazing. So the two different opinions were all polar opposites of each other. But yeah, I took videos of the goats and the puppies as well.
Yeah.
Besides, I don't know. It was very muted.
Well, and that was one of the things. So I had Justin come down, who is, one of our principal consultants. And he came to the Aegis event, was just helping out. That was his first time ever actually attending RSA. Just because it's always been, as a services firm, it's not necessarily about the the floor or whatever it is. It's usually about the hallway con, meeting clients, other people that are there. So, but we actually went and walked the floor. It was interesting to get his takeaway and his reactions. But I'm with you, because one of the things I noticed is there was while there were t-shirts and some giveaways like that, it felt like people had scaled back on what they were actually pushing, right? Like it was like, oh, here's a Lego set, but you have to give us a card. Okay, that's pretty standard. But your typical pins and stickers, some hats like you found, and it seemed like more like ball caps, trucker caps was more common this year. But I didn't see, like, t-shirts were not the thing anymore, right? Like it just didn't feel like there were a lot of places giving those away, where it used to be like every other booth had like a stack of shirts that they were trying to clear out, which whatever their most clever, shirt design was. And, that seems to have come to an end, which is interesting, right? Like, I don't know if it's just a take on, okay, we're going to spend less money on this kind of stuff, or what's going on, but interesting.
Well, I was annoyed by that, because this year I actually left room in my bag to bring back home shirts. And like, I stopped buying t-shirts. I just use free jiu-jitsu shirts or free conference shirts. And that's what I wear now. And I'm like, damn it. Like, I wanted free shirts. I specifically, anyways, it was just kind of funny. And it was just, yeah, man, I don't know. It felt weird, but I got to say both conferences really well run. I almost to like, I would say B-sides almost to a fault. I can't tell you how many times I screamed at to go like against the wall. That's my problem. I'm not very conscious of apparently where I'm at in time and space, but when I talk to people. But anyways, it was good. They were both well ran.
Yep, good stuff.
Trying to think of anything else. Like, yeah. Anyways, it was good. It was good. It was just the last thing I'll say, I did my first Waymo during that trip, and then I did like 8 after that. I thought it was awesome. It's like, this is great. Everybody complained like, oh, they take so much time. I'm like, yeah, I could care less. Like, they're peaceful and clean, and it works. It's great.
I'm down with that, right? Like, yeah, if it takes me an extra, like if it doubles the time, especially just running around the city, but I don't have to worry about stuff.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
It takes an extra 10 minutes with this peaceful music and perfect climate control, and I don't have to talk to anybody while I'm on my phone until my next meeting. Like, oh, this is awful. I hate it. It's incredible.
I was going to tell you, because we had that discussion. And like, I didn't mention this before, but we had that discussion where I was staying. Actually, the Waymos didn't make it out to that hotel, so I had to take an Uber back out. But literally, we had that Waymo ride, like it's all peaceful and nice and whatever. And then the next Uber I got in, the guy wanted to talk politics, and he talked politics for like a half an hour and did not it wasn't quiet the whole time.
What do you think about Trump? Like, exactly. Hey, let's talk about Gaza.
I know. I'm like, this could not be a worse time for you to do that, right? Like, I'm like, anyway. So it was pretty amazing. And the whole time I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me that's the discussion that we're having.
Anyway. Oh my God. You're just like, Waymo, please. Oh, wait. Yeah, save me. Oh man, that's awful. Me, yeah. I mean, that's the beautiful part about the Waymo.
Yeah.
No politics, no religion, no tips, no nothing. It's easy breezy, and I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Cool. Well, which article should we dig into for technical?
I don't know.
It's funny because, dude, I was looking through these articles, and especially the ones I sent you, but also the ones you sent me. Like, we've literally predicted some of these things to be like. Yeah, well, we'll just get into which one do you want to start with?
I don't know. A part of me feels like we should talk about the vibe coding one, because that's all we talked about at RSA, or yeah. Okay. The one, it's vibe coding tools, educational cyber games, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull that one up. Do you have the link, or I'm
I got it. Let me drop it.
Oh, okay.
I got it.
I found it. Pwn Defend, right?
That one.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. No, and actually, it's funny because I will say at RSA, the workshop, or at the AppSec Village, the workshop we ran was about like vulnerabilities that get introduced into via like, we literally like used vibe coding to add features that had some vulnerabilities in them, nuanced ones. So this is cool. I love that someone's doing a total education platform around this.
Yeah, so they're going on about how they've been using Grok, right? Like, okay, pick your AI, whichever, to see if it can be used to create products and services to help with cybersecurity challenges, right? I mean, this is pretty basic research that's going on right now in the industry, but they're using it to actually build, not code. So they are adhering to vibe coding principles that you're having the AI actually build things. And they're trying to get it to do all sorts of different security activities, whether that's OSINT, build attack surface maps, visualize data, whatever it is, to actually put these things together. And they're doing it from an educational aspect, right? So other people can learn how to do it as well. Like, okay, here, we're going to build this cyber detective that's going to use those tools to actually go out and do different things. The gamification of cybersecurity in general is awesome, right? That's the great way to learn. And now they're actually like using LLMs to do it. I don't know. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I really think it's hey, like, it's using a tool to supercharge their I think it's neat because I was like actually going through the Mr. What is it, Mr. Sorry, I'm going
Reboot?
back here. Mr. Reboot. Yeah, Mr. Reboot. And going through the actual game, and it's pretty neat. It's like well done. Or at least like how it seems to, I don't know, it's just cool. I don't really have a lot of thoughts other than neat. Yeah, like here's the thing though, like I'll caution this, man. Like, all right, vibe coding. Keep it brief because we had this whole debate with Paul, right? I will say, I have to be very explicit with some of the things that I want done. Like, put it this way, in the beginning of building an app, very easy, right? But as you get further down the line with the maturity of the thing you're working on, it definitely becomes a situation where you have to get, I do anyways, I have to get really discreet with what I want an AI system to send me in terms of code snippets, or suggest in terms of code snippets. If I go outside those parameters, if I try to do something a little bit bigger, at least again, once it's mature, it tends to break things, other parts of the application. And this is using both. Well, it's mostly Windsurf I'm talking about, but I suspect because they're both kind of very similar. At least in the outcomes, how they work under the hood's a little different, but still generally kind of the same concept. But yeah, man, I got to tell you, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, if something's really mature and already has like a bunch of patterns in it, and then you try and like say, oh, I want to do something pretty broad, I add this kind of functionality, and here's some basic parameters, like it can be really problematic. So I've gotten to the point where pretty much I'll if I need to, I'll just say like, here's a function, here's like the 6 lines that I don't want to write myself, and that's easier than trying to, like, anyways. So I'm just saying that with my experience with it, it has been like, you do need to be careful quite a bit. And if you're somebody who doesn't know what you're doing at all, it's like, of course, it's going to lead to issues down the line.
Yeah, how complex the application is that you're actually building is going to roll into it. I mean, I know my introduction into vibe coding is really like GitHub Copilot. That was the initial take, which was very, very targeted, right? Like, write me a unit test to do X, Y, and Z, and it would 20, 50 lines of code that it would generate, or like even tabbing along some of the GitHub Copilot stuff that it presents to you. But even then, it makes mistakes in variable names, and it hallucinates objects. It hallucinates libraries pretty easily. And part of that might just be the AI behind the scenes for Copilot specifically. But as you get into Windsurf and some of those problems will be solved. and it's just going to get better, right? Like he's built this whole like attack and defend gamification that's pretty awesome. And I expect it to get better over time because it's, it's still early days within that. Cool. Okay, so what article do you want to talk about next? Okay, sweet.
About this one. Phishing attacks that defeat MFA are easier or more common than ever. Let me put this. By the way, I also want to say my other highlight from last week was seeing Larry. I saw Larry comment, and I was like, oh yeah, like hanging out with Larry was really nice to see him again in person at that impromptu get together, which I didn't even know was a absolute AppSec get together until far too late into it. Anyways, so this article, all right, what's happening? Basically what they're saying is that sites are, setting themselves up to look like whatever the real site is, and then acting as a proxy, right? We've seen this before. When I first started at GitHub, we would track requests to our site that had a host that was different than github.com. And just by doing that, we would see like these proxy sites, and we'd also tailor them. Like, so if it's getting, tens of thousands of hits, it's like, okay, well, that one's problematic. And then later we had a more robust CSP and we did other things. And then that wasn't really like as much of a concern. But at the time, being proxied and having credential theft where people just, enter their credentials into this proxy site, they get forwarded on to us, and it all seems like it's actually happening correctly. And in reality, it's like a credential stealer site, right? It's the same thing that's happening here. Log in, get an MFA response challenge, put in your thing and your code, and then they have stolen it, and they've grabbed access to the site that you actually thought you were authenticating to. Now, what I liked about this article is it pointed out the strength of WebAuthN. In this scenario, it's virtually impossible. It's signed for specifically the URL that you're interacting with. There's no way that cryptographically, well, I'm not going to say, I'm done saying there's no way, right? Like that's long ago, I'm done saying that. But they say virtually impossible for that, kind of reason that with WebAuthN, it's for a few reasons that it's just nearly impossible to do this sort of attack and phishing. But they give some examples in the article too about Cloudflare being breached via or hold on, I'm sorry, no. One company that was targeted in the attack campaign but wasn't breached was Content Delivery Network Cloudflare, and the reason it failed was because they used WebAuthn. I'm sorry, I almost made a big mistake there. So kudos to Cloudflare on that end of things. In any case, I'm curious, Seth, because you have a better view of, or a wider view of, I would say, customers, because you deal with, as a services provider, so many, it's like you do your couple weeks and then you move on to or whatever with a different customer. So you see a lot of different customers in a year. Is this, is this something you're warning people about? Is this something you have discussions about? Is this something that comes up in your assessments?
It does. It's usually with organizations that are more mature. I'll be completely honest, because most of the smaller companies, small size businesses that we deal with are not taking into account even 2FA in some cases, right? Like, or if they are, they're depending on Okta or Twilio or somebody else to actually handle that for them. I am seeing more of that, this offloading of authentication to a third party, to a trusted third party, which is great to see. But there still is quite a bit of just like username and passwords and, a lot of SaaS providers that allow for OAuth integrations, but it's not a requirement. And then on top of that, MFA is an afterthought, usually only pushed because a client asked for it or something else along those lines. I can probably count in the last year, I would say only 20-25% of clients that we do tests for actually are implementing something WebAuthn or even SSO related or even MFA. It's getting better, but it's still pretty immature. I hate to say it, but that is the case. It's probably an area that we need to push more on because people are getting breached. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get on a daily basis MFA style attacks like this. I get, there are phishing messages that come in for both emails. And part of this is probably just because I'm public persona and we've got like a business, business line that we use for different things at Redpoint. And so I get emails in there all the time that are like, oh, your account's been compromised. Come and log in. Here's a link. Right. And it follows exactly this pattern. Right. Sometimes it's not as overt as that to actually say accounts.google.com, but it is a very, very common attack pattern that I'm seeing. I mean, all is not lost, but short answer is I don't see enough of this from a development perspective and from an organization perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if the risk profile and the maturity of the org isn't like, if you've got bigger concerns, like you can't even manage, like, I don't know, account lockouts correctly, or you've got, I don't know, some sort of broken authn situation going, or like maybe you're still working on maybe some of the fundamentals of web security in your app, still some of the basic settings that you need to set up. I could see why this would be not a huge, because even when I joined GitHub, right at that stage, they were, I want to say 600 or 700 employees when they started to care about this, right? So at that point, the AppSec and ProdSec team was a total of 6 people, 3 on AppSec, 3 on Prod, or whatever it wasn't ProdSec, but it was like something like that. Security products, actually, or something like that. Anyways, my point being that I think what you're saying is accurate, because at that point they had enough maturity and enough users to say that like our risk profile warranted that, there was a problem, right? So a little different if you're mom and pop shop, or not even a mom and pop shop, but like sub 300.
And this is honestly one of my we start talking about these phishing attacks that are coming in via MFA. Okay, not everybody has implemented WebAuthN. Not every application has, but there are critical consumer applications that are out there that are using MFA nowadays. The problem that I'm seeing, and some of the research that we've been doing around like enumeration of accounts, directly feeds into this. Not only like credential stuffing and breach data that's already out there, but if I can determine that, Seth at google.com or Seth at gmail.com is a valid account and is also enrolled at, like mybank.com, that makes for phishing so much easier, because I can actually push those sorts of MFA links, phishing links, to Seth at gmail.com, because I know that account exists. And I know Gmail would argue, well, it's a public, it's a public address, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter. But both Google and Microsoft, or Alphabet and Microsoft, don't care about enumeration, even though people use those email addresses for sensitive credentials all of the time. Okay? And so it's kind of that risk profile thing that feeds into it, exactly what you're saying. And this is one of the arguments that I have with people about whether or not enumeration even matters. If Google and Microsoft don't care about it, why should we? I always go back to, well, are you using your email address as a sensitive credential, right? You're using it to log into your bank. You're using it for communications for MFA tokens. You're using it as communications for reset passwords, whatever it is. If I know that it exists, that just makes you a larger target. So, sorry, soapbox a little bit, but that's one of those arguments that I've had with people on enumeration. But this feeds directly into it.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, there's certainly cases where enumeration doesn't matter for sure, like, social sites, of course. But yeah, I know you bring up a good point, because there certainly are. I know like enumeration is one of those ones. It's very, very common, and it's not always like system-based error messages, right? There's like a number of ways it can occur, and like timing attacks are like one of the more subtle ways that are used to be very difficult to detect. A little bit, I mean, quite a bit easier now that networks are more stable and quick.
So on an aside here, right? Like one of the most recent, like we find enumeration attacks in probably 95% of the applications that we test. One of them that we found recently was a product that had been fairly well picked over. They've been running a bug bounty against it for years, all this sort of thing. We found that enumeration in the forgot password flow actually happened because the same site cookie parameter that was set on valid versus invalid changed. So if it was a valid account, you would actually get back a cookie response, a set cookie response from the application that would include the same site equals lax parameter on it. But if it didn't exist, it would not. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out what framework, I don't have access to code on this one, but it blew my mind that like there was a different flow for forgot password for setting cookies associated with that gave out that information. It was incredibly reliable, right? Just speaking to nuanced like responses and enumeration attacks, super interesting. So
yeah, now
at least I find
like,
it super interesting. Why? Yeah, why?
Yeah, the why. Why will keep you up. You got to forget about the why sometimes, but
I know.
You can't also forget about the why. it's hard, but yeah, that is tough. Well, when you don't have access to source, it's frustrating and not. But yeah, I mean, like it can, like you're saying, it can happen in a number of ways. It's not as simple as just like a simple error message, and it does depend on like other factors as to how valuable that enumeration is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just, and that is why contextually or gathering contextually relevant information given the thing that you're focused on is so freaking important. As a human being, as an automated system, whatever it might be.
Yep.
It is king. Sweet. Yeah, no, I just thought that was cool because like, I don't know. It's a very traditional AppSec issue that is, the prevalence is probably going up because of the fact that it's so easy these days to create these sort of sites, right? Like it's very low effort to build so that may factor in, and now that I'm saying that out loud, that may factor into like I wonder if it's not so why I'm saying this is like, if it was really difficult before, or at least not really, but maybe moderately difficult to create a proxy site that looked and like passed the sniff test of tricking a human being, and again, moderately difficult, took decent amount of human time to do, at least it's like, well, yeah, okay, now your maturity and your popularity, the amount of users you have, like different risk profile elements factor in. But like where I'm going is maybe those maybe in a very near future, or even now, applications that we wouldn't have thought this would matter for, it will, because it'll be so easy to automate these automate these style of phishing sites that, which I guess is what the article is sort of pointing at. And so it's not really a guess or but anyways, I don't know. I'm just rambling now, trying to think out loud.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Like I go to this idea that there is a long tail of applications that are out there that are probably not well maintained. They're running on older technology, and they handle millions, if not billions of dollars in transactions, period. So where a phishing attack and malware in general initially was targeted at larger code bases, larger installs, right? We now have the technology with AI to actually generate a large amount of these sites, to your point, to go after that long tail. So what didn't make sense 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, or even 3 years ago, makes sense now, because I don't have to put in the time as an attacker to actually build out that long tail of sites to target those applications. So it's going to happen, right? Like you've got to be aware of what it is. Maybe implement WebAuthN as suggested, like Cloudflare has within your application, and then get users to enroll. I think that's one of the large hurdles that we have a tendency to overlook, is that the general populace has no idea what WebAuthN is and has no idea how to even like come up with or store a passkey in order to authenticate to a specific site. And if they don't understand it, they're going to click no, right? They just think it's another pop-up. And we've trained them to think that pop-ups are bad.
As they historically were, but yeah.
Yes.
Point.
No, wait, we have, right? Like we have trained users to like mistrust the internet, to like ignore pop-up warnings, to, you know, like there are so many things, to, you know, build bad passwords. Like over the years, we have shot ourselves in the foot as a security industry and how we have represented security to people and the actions that they should be taking. I can't tell you even today the number of people that won't update like their iPhone or their operating system because they don't trust the new one, right? And it's maddening when you look at it from a overall risk perspective, because those are the devices that get exploited, and yet they're, in their mind, it's worse to go to the new version for instability than it is for, you know, than to go there for security's sake. Yeah, I mean, go try and convince your, you know, in-laws like to actually update their systems. They'll do it if you're sitting down and you're the one that's doing it, but they don't trust themselves to do it. Yeah.
Oh my God. I don't even want to go into all the stories I have about different family members, and oh my God. Yeah. I mean, like it is to a technologist, it is shocking. It is shocking the level of how quickly someone will say this is too hard, and how easily those will be like, fuck it, walk away. like I mean that like for example, I just like as a quick aside, I bought a Fire tablet for a family member years ago, or whenever those were popular. And then we went back like a couple years later and we're visiting, and like forget how it came up, but it was like there out in the open with dust all over it. It was like, well, like what's going on with this? And like, oh yeah, we tried to like you know, start it and like connect it to the Wi-Fi. It was just too hard. It was like, so what did you do after that? That was it. That's it. 2 years ago, I just gave up. Just screw it. I was like, and I have other worse examples as well of things where I'm shocked. So that's what we're up against, folks, when it comes to user, like non-security, non-technologist users. That's like what we're dealing with.
Well,
it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, right? Like you think it's hard to get a developer to fix like a cross-site scripting issue, whatever it is, right? Like, you know, or an authorization issue. It's a technical problem. At least they care enough about security to go in and try. You know, it's much harder to get people that are not technologists to actually realize the risk that's involved in some of the things that they do. Right? I mean, there's a reason why a lot of those scams actually succeed, because people are trusting, because if you call them up and give them a sob story, they think it's their grandson, granddaughter that's actually been arrested and needs money. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it sucks that people prey on the, you know, social weaknesses, but that's the world that we live in. Yeah.
It is the world that we live in, and it is the reality that we live in. And yeah, it's tough with every security bit. Anyways, it's like, man, we don't even have time to finish out really all the thoughts there. But you're right, like security is really tough when it comes to like making it accessible. and something not just accessible, but something that people will actually use. And I mean,
well, and
we were happy when we got like 10% of GitHub users to do
yeah,
MFA.
to
That
do
was like
anything.
astronomical numbers, like in a positive way. 10%.
Yeah.
Like these are people that understand technology, or at least should, right? And that was difficult. So
Yeah. And that's what I kind of go back to when we start thinking about MFA scams and phishing scams. And then the recommendation of WebAuthN is that the technologists that I know are struggling with WebAuthN and how to do passkey stuff. And as easy as we've made it, and they don't even recognize that that's probably what they should be doing in a lot of cases, because they're so heads down on developing code, on doing their day-to-day. How are you going to get, grandma and grandpa to actually implement something similar? It's too difficult for them. They can barely figure out what their Netflix password is and stay logged in there, right? Like, and that's something they want to use.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, I'm turning into a nihilist again.
That's
today.
another one. That's another example. Yeah, where it's like, I've literally, you know what? I'm not gonna. Yes, agreed. I won't tell any more stories because I don't want to like upset anybody if they ever listen to this. But yeah,
Yep.
yes, hard head nod for those that are listening, not viewing. Cool.
Anyway. Well, we have more articles, but we'll push them into the newsletter this week. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, please do so. We'll summarize the episode, summarize what's going on, but also push out some of the other thoughts and interesting things that we're actually seeing in the industry. But otherwise, we have been going for an hour. It's always surprising to me how fast these go. But and any final thoughts before we close it out today, Ken?
Gosh, no, I don't think so. What about you?
No, use WebAuthN, use some passkeys, go try it out if you haven't up to this point. But otherwise, join us on Slack.
Hey, there is one thing. We've got our training, and so like, spread the word. Get some
sign up. Spread the word.
Sign up. Get some developers in, some consultants. Yeah.
Yep. It's good stuff. It will help you. We promise. Right? Cool.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining today, and jump into Slack to continue the conversation. We'll talk to you all next week.
Thanks.